October 2025. So, passing through the old neighborhood, I figure I'd, just in case, years to come, I forget things, we forget things. Crazy. So we gotta document it. This is the Alberti's house. I used to cut their grass, $10. $10, I would cut their grass. The Seatons, I would cut their grass, $10. The Sisitskis, I would cut their grass. I remember I was a little kid, and the power went out, and for some reason they had power and we didn't. That's my house right there. And we stayed the night, a couple of days, and all I remember is I ate some Stouffer's chocolate, and I think it was one of the ones with fruit in the middle, and I didn't like it, and I put it in I put it in his son's shoe. He was older, and I think his name is Brian, and I apologized to him a couple of years ago on Facebook. I think I put the half-eaten candy. It was all chewed up, and I put it in his shoe, thinking nobody would notice. The Seatons, they had a son named Buddy. He was older. I cut their grass. As I understand it, in the basement, there's like a doorway, and you can open it, and there's like a stream, underground stream that still runs. And I've never seen it, but that's what they told me. They told me there's an underground stream, and they had a little hatchway, and you could open it and you could see it. Now, the Albertis, I'll tell you what happened. You can believe me, you don't have to. 1983. I started boxing in 1982. I started getting headaches almost immediately when I started boxing. I started boxing officially in March of 82 at the gym in Windsor Locks. I started getting headaches. I had one headache for over a year. The only time I didn't have the headache was when I was in the gym training and sparring. But I knew when I go home that night, I'd have a headache. And I would pray, and I would massage my temples. I would put ice on my forehead. I did everything. I took aspirin. I did everything. I couldn't get rid of the headache. Now, I'm cutting the grass. I'm literally right there. I'm cutting the grass one day, 1983, and I stop. Just out of nowhere. I don't know what told me to do it. I stop. I close my eyes. I picture the headache. The headache was like a round ball, almost like a fireball. And it was on the right side of my head. I could feel it in my head. I could see it in my head. The headache, I could picture it like popping out of my head, like slowly. And then I actually felt it pops out. I open my eyes. My headache is gone. That was 40-something years ago. I've not had a headache since, other than, if I had a head cold or, after a fight or heavy sparring or something like that. But just to have a headache for no reason, no. And they stopped that day. I don't know if you believe that. I don't know how to explain it, but what am I going to do? I can only tell the truth. The Levy's house, I spent more time in their house than anyone's house growing up. Mrs. Levy took care of me when I was a kid. They used to have a huge willow tree right here. Kenny and I used to play football against each other right here on the side of the house. We used to box in his garage. He hit me low one time. He hit me so hard. He hit me low. He's like 4 years younger than me. He hit me low right in that garage, and he hit me so hard. I was on the ground, and I'm telling him, run, run, because I liked him, but I knew if I was able to get up, I wanted to kill him. And then, it's not my fault, but a few years later, he got hit by a car riding his bike right here. And I never forget it. We were all playing kickball right there. And the ball was in the air when we heard the scream, and Ingrid, I think, screamed, and he got hit right here by a car. And I'll never forget, it was a GTO, and a woman was driving it. A brown GTO, and a woman was driving it. That was back in the 70s. I remember that. I remember the Downey's house, Lori and Diane and Matthew. And they used to have the A-frame. It's gone. Wow. That A-frame used to be right there. Matthew built it, I think, for a school project in the 70s, mid-70s. He built it, and I think they got rid of it like a year or two ago. The mother used to work for I forget the name of the place on the town line of Fuller Brush, and Laura used to give me bottles of Flintstone vitamins, and I would eat them a whole bottle in one day. This is Hernando's house. He used to have the white electricity truck. They used to have Hernando back in the 70s. They had hanging on a tree. They had a bug killer. Remember the bug killers? And they would zap the bugs. And I lived right there. We didn't have central air, so the house would be hot, hot, hot in the summer. So I'd have the windows open, and all you could hear every 10 seconds is bzz, 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 because all the bugs were getting killed. We'd be up all night listening to bugs die. Thanks, Hernando. Hernando and little Corey with the Audi belly button, and the Quints here, Queen, older couple. They used to live here. What's his name? Jennifer Brown, Stacy Brown lived here. These people always had the nicest yard. I don't even know their names. I lived here my whole life. I don't even know their names. But I do know they had the nicest yard. They always kept it up. Now, if you lived in my neighborhood, you will know George Littlejohn, rest in peace, and Oscar Dean. And they used to ride they used to do the skateboard back in the 70s when skateboards were a big thing. And they would start up there and they would do the thing. They had two skateboards. They would do the catamaran, which is a thing like they both sit on it, they face each other, and they go down the hill at the same time. And Oscar and I remember Howard Carty, they could do 360s, like, 20 of them or whatever it was. I could do like 2. They could do like 20 something. Oscar lived right there. Earl Skyers and David lived there. Yep, they used to do the catamaran all the way down the hill here. Back in the 70s. Up there, Mr. Cirillo, he lived on the corner. He was a school teacher at Windsor High. I remember when my brother was a kid, my brother used to sleepwalk. And he got up one night, like 2 in the morning, in the snow, in the winter. And he walked all the way up here. And he punched a hole in Mr. Cirillo's front window. Another time my brother was sleep driving. He took my mother's car in the middle of the night, drove up to Park Avenue. And I remember he called our house from the payphone there while he was still sleeping. And I remember I wake up and I could hear my mother talk to him. She's like, "Wake up, wake up, Jerry, wake up." And he finally woke up and she had to tell him, "Come back home." He slept drove. He drove a car and called our house. Knew enough to put the dime in the phone. He knew how to dial our number. He knew the number while he was sleeping. The Little Johns, they either lived in this house or that house, I forget. What was his name? Danny Levin. Danny Levin lived in one of these houses. I have a picture of him and I in his basement. We were like 4 or 5 years old, wearing plaid pants. It's crazy. And then I remember like 5, 6, 7 years ago, I saw him online. I got his email somehow, and I sent him an email. I said, "Hey, what's up, Danny? Wow, it's been a long time. We should get together, meet up, catch up." And he sent me an email back. He said, "No, I wouldn't like to do that." And that was it. He just completely blew me off, and that was the end of it. Another time, I was riding my bike to school, going down this, and I was daydreaming. I didn't realize it till I'm riding a bike, a Huffy Santa Fe 10 speed. I hit that curb right there by that stop sign, I didn't know I hit the curb till I hit it, and it was like getting hit by a car, and I fell off and I landed in that yard there, and I fell asleep while I was riding my bike. Crazy. Sue Dickerson lived there. Let's see. It's crazy. I lived here my whole life. I knew Sue, but I didn't know who lived there. But I remember, and they still do. It was probably different people, but wow, they always took care of their yard. This house always had a nice yard. Even now, look at that. They cut it nice. They even had the sign, Oakland zone. And they always had nice, they kept the bushes trimmed and all that. This is where the Harans lived. They moved away when we were younger, but it was Renata and Katrina, and they lived here. And I remember there was huge, I guess it's ferns. I think it's ferns. The big tall bushes, really tall. And they, as I recall, the whole yard was surrounded by them. Very, very pretty girls. I didn't know Katrina that well, but Renata was pretty. She was like a model. She lived there. They lived there. I talked to the brother. There was a girl and a boy. I talked to the brother a few months ago. I saw him at the store. A really, really nice family. That's the Green family. They had Marlon, Jewel, and Carla. And Carla I just talked to the other day, actually. But what I remember, May 1983, I had my first fight ever. And I was walking by, and they had a mailbox right here. And I asked them if I could see the newspaper, because we didn't get the Journal-Inquirer. And I knew, or I figured, my name was going to be in there for the first time ever in the newspaper. For my first fight, happened a few days earlier. It was. And I asked them if I could have it. They gave it to me. And I still have it in my scrapbook to this day. Greg Sapansky lived right here. Greg Sapansky, when I first started boxing, before I ever went to a real gym, my first time in a real gym was 1982. In 1980, Chris Prevost and I, we started our own boxing league, the Windsor Boxing Council, the WBC. And I had 9 fights. I was 9-0. My second fight was against Greg Sapansky, who lived here. We fought in Chris's yard up in Deerfield. And I remember Greg was a lot bigger than me. He was huge compared to me. But he had glasses, and he couldn't see that well. So when he took his glasses off, he couldn't see. And I was tagging him. Greg. That's funny. Scott Kearns lived here. It was Scott. It was Sally. It was, I think, the sister Ann, and the younger sister Grace. And I remember, crazy, it was 1983, and we were watching a thing on Ali and Frazier. And it was the thing where Ali was saying, it's going to be a chiller and a killer and a thriller when I get the gorilla in Manila. And I remember thinking at the time, it seemed so long, like long before. It seemed previously, it just seemed like it happened years earlier. Yet, I think about it now, it was only 8 years earlier. It was 1975. So in 83, as a young kid, 1975 seemed like, 20 years instead of just a few. So, yeah, Scott used to come to my fights sometimes. Used to go swimming in his backyard back in the early 80s. Tyrone Kimber lived, I believe, in this house. Tyrone, good kid, good football player. I believe he went on to play college football. He was a little bit younger, so we used to play in the park. He wasn't one of the main guys just because he was like a different era. He was younger than us, so he got really good afterwards. He either lived in that house or that house. I forget exactly which one. Yeah, it's the old neighborhood. I remember Michael and Jimmy Corso lived over there. they always had a nice yard also. Always kept up perfect, clean. Back in the day. It's amazing. I didn't know. It's my neighborhood. It's right here. But I didn't know anybody except for Tyrone. Crazy. That's all right. I don't know what they're building there. Looks good. See, he's trustworthy. He leaves the car unlocked. I mean, running. I would never do that. Never. Yeah, this is the Corso house. Nice yard. They always had a clean yard. They always had the shrubs and the plants and all that kind of stuff. Custer Drive. And behind it is Eli Circle, which is like a separate neighborhood. It's separated by the brook. So if you grew up in Windsor, because Jimmy was a different era. He was more like my brother's era. And Michael was actually like a year or two earlier also. And the only ones I knew, as I recall, was there was actually Janelle Franklin. Janelle, I actually trained her like 6 months ago. We did a workout in the gym when she was a little kid, not a little kid, but like 14. She was a really good basketball player. I didn't know that. You know, we were playing basketball. I was playing basketball. This is only like 20 years ago, I guess. And everybody's like, "Oh, Janelle's the best in the neighborhood." And I think she lived there. I think she lives here. And we played. And long story short, I was talking trash right on the court over here. I was talking trash to her, and I ended up beating her in one-on-one. She got mad. I'll never forget. She told me, "That's why when I get older, I'm going to have a nicer car than you." Janelle. But yeah, she ended up being like a high school basketball star. She was really good. Calvin Smith lived here. I always remember we played football there. Come over here. He was the house we got the water from, off the water hose. I don't think kids even do that anymore. I've never seen it. I haven't seen that in 30 years. I haven't seen anyone drink out of the water fountain, water hose. And I watched Larry Holmes and Michael Spinks, the first fight, 1985. I watched it right here, right in Calvin Smith's house. Then we go over here. We've got the park. Now, when I was a kid, every single day, spring, summer, winter, and fall, we'd be out here in this park every single day. It's unbelievable. I haven't seen anyone play here other than the time I was driving by and I saw some kids playing a game of football, and I was like the steady quarterback. Other than that day, in 40 years, I haven't seen anybody play football out here or do anything. They don't play baseball. They don't do anything. Basketball, I haven't seen the court used since I played Janelle. I played Janelle. I remember I was shot. That was my goal. That was hers. And I scored more than she did. She'd probably beat me now, though. But we used to play because the street light was here. Yeah, it still is. So we used to play and stay up. It'd be midnight. We'd be out here playing basketball. These swings weren't here, and over there was bushes lining the whole thing. So it was kind of like a sideline. So the end zone would be this tree, and then that tree down there. And we played. I mean, it must have been hundreds of games. Spring, summer, winter, fall. Calvin Smith, Chris Mason, J.J. Shaw, me, Albert. Just everybody. Billy Gilmore. We played Bloomfield here, who was a very, we played the team, like players that actually played on the Bloomfield high school team. We played them here. Now, granted, we wouldn't have beat them without Billy Gilmore, but Billy lived up there. We beat them. Billy was a beast. Billy was a beast. Right there, see the house right there? June Archer lives there. If you go on Facebook or just research June Archer now, he was in a group of kids comprised of Windsor and Hartford kids. They had a group back in 1997 called Room Service. They had a few really good songs, like really good. They were good. I don't know why they didn't make it to the mainstream. You know, it takes more than just talent. They got to have the business and all that. But look up their songs. They had a song called "Ain't Nothing Wrong." You can look it up on YouTube. Really good. And they had another song called "Stay." But yeah, June lived right there. But he actually works, as I understand it, he works for 50 Cent now. I just saw him yesterday on social media. He was doing interviews with, he does interviews with actors and singers, and, he's a guest on 50 Show and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, June Archer lives right there. This was our end zone right here. That tree was the end zone. I spent a lot of time. Albert Graham was the quarterback. This big tree bush wasn't there, but it was basically me and Albert Graham against Calvin Smith and Chris Mason, and then whoever else would play on their team and my team. But it was always me and Albert. It was always Chris and Calvin. They will tell you different, I'm sure, but they absolutely did not beat us more than a couple times. I spent a lot of time in this end zone right there, for sure. Damian Brown used to live right here. I have no idea what happened to Damian. No clue. Michael Gopi used to live there. Kathy Michaud lived over here. We had Carol Carasquilla. Carol was one of those girls, super successful now. She's a judge, actually. I don't know if it's a circuit court, or I'm not sure exactly, but she's a judge for sure. She's a very pretty girl. One of the most popular girls in high school. Let's see, who else? You had Kathy. Like I say, Kathy Michaud lived over here. J.J. Shaw lived over here. Tasha Overstreet lived over here. Paul Coffey lived down here. I always remember the night. Must have been 1981, I would think. There was a big incident on Windsor Avenue, and some kid, I think, he was in the house and he shot somebody, and he was barricaded in the house, and he was shooting at the police and the ambulance when they came. And as I recall, the house, I think the police set it on fire, or he did, but they burned the house down. They had to replace it, put a new house up. But I was at Paul Coffey's house, and all I remember is that Paul Coffey, they had a sauna in their basement. The only house I've ever seen with a sauna in the basement. And I left his house. It was dark. I went home, and I remember my mother was on the porch. She was crying. She was like, "Where have you been? Get in the house. Something happened." Like, she thought I was like 14. She thought I was involved. That I was going to get killed or something. And, she had me come in the house real quick. And yeah, it was a crazy thing, especially for, a town like this. But yeah, we used to do the trick-or-treating. This was one of the better streets. Carol Carasquilla lived right there. As I recall, right next to her, Dick Teed. You can look this up. Dick Teed. Dick, and then his last name, T-E-E-D. JJ lived right there. T-E-E-D. I believe he was a professional baseball player, but he was a Major League Scout, which I thought was pretty cool that we had a Major League Scout right in our neighborhood. Yeah, as I recall, he lives right there. Dick Teed, Major League Baseball scout. And, yeah, Carol lived right there. Paul lived right there. And, yeah, Only house with a sauna. Actually, Carol and I remember we used to play baseball. Like, I don't know, we used to meet up in the park, play baseball. Like, her and me, just her and I, just the two of us. And we were friends, you know. And she's doing extremely well now. Good stuff. I always remember this house because, and we're talking between now to this very day, now and since I was a kid in the 70s. So we're talking 50 years. I've never seen anyone in that house. I've never seen anyone walk into that house. I've never seen anyone come out of that house. I've never seen anyone at that house in my life. 50 years, at least. I don't know who ever lived there. I have no idea. Zero. And I do know this house, we sometimes when we'd go pool hopping, if we had to run, if the police came and we had to run, we would end up climbing their fence in the back and, running home. Let's see, this garage wasn't there when I was a kid. I know that. And the girl, let me see, it must have been, I think this house, I believe her name was Melody. And I remember she asked, because she worked at Kmart with me, she asked my friend and I if we wanted to go to church with her. She was a Jehovah's Witness. I remember that. And we went, a kid named Mark. Mark and I went. I remember the church was on Blue Hills Avenue. And I remember that two things happened. One, I remember one thing the guy said in the sermon. He said, the devil is always there trying to tell you to do something wrong. And it's up to you to realize it's him and to not do it. I mean, that was back in 1987, and I always remember him saying that. But I also remember that somebody, I didn't know what the Holy Ghost was at the time, and somebody caught it, some lady, and she started yelling, and I thought she was having a heart attack. And I said, hey, aren't they gonna help her? And Melody's like, shh, come on, be quiet. I said, no, what are you crazy? Like, this lady's dying here. What are you, crazy? She goes, please be quiet. And right then I said, they're sacrificing this lady. They're just gonna let her die. It must be some kind of ritual. And then I found out later it was the Holy Ghost. I didn't realize this was a thing. So, and then up here, 45 Holmes Drive, Roger Perry, my best friend growing up, spent a lot of time at his house way back in the day. We used to play baseball together, and he had a go-kart and like a track in his yard. They'd made a track, and they would, it was all dirt, and we would ride the go-kart in the yard. So it was a different day back then. I haven't seen a go-kart in the neighborhood in 40 years, 50 years, but back then that was a thing for sure. Anyway, there it is. Ford Road. That's my spot.